So grab your headphones, let the journey start. With Suzy's Vegas tales, she's stealing the heart. In the city of dreams, let's laugh and play. Suzy's Las Vegas podcast, come join the sway.
Well, we're back with another show, and I'm really excited about it today because we've got some very important guests with me. But first, I'm going to give you a little teaser. The best-selling author of End Suicide and Homicide, and also her manager is here. So with that being said, tune in, be sure to like, subscribe, and share Suzy's Las Vegas. And with me today, I have Dr. Drina and I have Andy Hangarter. Very nice to meet both of you. We met before, but I really want to talk about your book and talk about your life, and we're going to get into everything today. So let's go for it.
Okay. Well, when I came to Las Vegas, I thought, I really don't want to be retired. And so I was a school psychologist for 32 years in California, and concomitantly at the same time I also had a private practice in marriage, family, child therapy. And what used to upset me was when they sent me whole classes after somebody had died by suicide.
Oh my goodness.
Right. And
how do you talk to a whole class?
Well, I won't give you that spiel because it was very sad, and I was supposed to make them better. And I thought there must be a better way.
Yeah.
And that was my early career, and I found there is a better way. And I've come to, in this book, End Suicide and Homicide, and the harm in between, which is harm to oneself or harm to others. It's the same, two sides to the same coin.
Wow.
And what I learned was with two simple rules and a method that's called offensiveless defense.
Offensiveless defense.
Right.
Okay.
And I trademarked it because it's not in the dictionary.
No.
And it's a way to stop people from mocking, ridiculing, harming people, and how you can use this information to get out to your circle of influence. And the book was written for, yes, parents and teachers and guardians of all different types, but be it mental health workers or physicians or scout leaders. And Andrew, I met Andrew, and he used to, he got his master's degree in marketing, and he used to edit Tony Robbins'
You
stuff.
did? Yes. Wow.
I've been with Tony Robbins since 1985 on and off for years. So I get the value of all that information before everybody else did, because I used to be on computer papers like this that I would then have to go through, and I wasn't like looking for the commas or the semicolon. It would be like he'd describe a concept, and if I didn't get it, then you have to rewrite that because I already know the answer. And so that's how in the early days I would go with Tony on doing the seminars and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. So I was really lucky to find him to do the same thing with me, collaborate, so that, if I used some highfalutin word, he'd say, well, let's break this down, that'll be better. And as a matter of fact, now I'm doing a program, a 12-module program that hopefully will go out to the schools for teenagers because...
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, 49,000 people in the United States die by suicide yearly, and it's either going up, I'm hoping it's going to go down. And that's more people than pass away in car accidents.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, thank God for this, but it's many more people than die from homicide.
Wow.
So...
Well, when you got into this book, Dr. Drina, this was published in, 2023?
Right, but I started it.
This is all your collaboration through all the years,
well,
isn't
in 2005, I had a 68-page PowerPoint where I have all this information in there.
This was over in California?
This was in California.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get people to read it.
Yeah.
It was high dense and all that.
Sure.
But now I'm hoping that people will will read it, and I'm wanting to get it into an audiobook eventually, because people like that.
Audiobooks are great. I always have my earpods
you
in,
can
and I
always do
listen.
something else with
right.
your hands.
I'm also multitasking all the time.
Yeah.
But this is really needed, with the homicide and the suicide. But the suicide is just...
Yeah. The point I'd like to make is that if a friend of yours dies in a car crash, you're sad about it.
Yeah.
But if someone commits suicide, then you feel like, what could I have done? It's like I didn't see it coming, or why didn't we have open communication?
Yeah.
And just so many more people feel pain about suicide than they do with a natural cause type of. And so that's where I really got drawn into this, because this is definitely not a topic that I was of interest in. I'd never even thought about.
Yeah.
But
right, and
really,
parents were telling me, I never saw it coming. They said
I never saw it coming when it happened to me.
Do you want to talk about a little bit what drew us together because of that?
Yeah, we were at, so let's go back a little bit. We were at a luncheon, and I've known Andy for a lot of years, but it's the first I met Dr. Drina, and it was down at Lowry's.
Right.
And it was a networking luncheon, and I was so impressed when I heard you talk. I really wanted to have her on the show, and I figured there's a lot of people out there that watch my show, and these are key words. A lot of times people don't talk about what happens with the suicides, and it changes your whole life. No matter what anybody says, I wasn't prepared when it happened to me. Yeah. And it was during COVID, and I didn't see it coming. And a dear friend of mine, he got some bad news from his mother and father, and come back, and thank God that I'm still alive, because it happened in my penthouse, in my apartment. And when you're faced with it right in front of you, there's a couple things they can do. One of them is take you with them, or, themselves. But by the grace of God, I had 2 pets with me, and I have a little toy Maltese, and I have a Westie. And the little Westie crawled up on I was laying in bed when he came in, and he had a gun. And the Westie crawled up on my chest, and the toy Maltese was beside me, and I swear to God, that's what saved my life. But I didn't think he would really do that, and he did. And the aftermath when you go through that is just unbelievable.
Yep, for some people it becomes so overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like post-traumatic stress disorders develop.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what I've decided to do in that book, it's called End Suicide and Homicide, but a little dash is there too. If you were to go on Amazon, you'd see "and the harm in between." And what I'm hoping is that people will bother, because it is a bother, it's not like a fiction story.
Yeah, it's real.
It's real. To look at the charts in there and how to get rid of negative emotions before there's ever any ideation of dying by suicide. And that's what I tell people. Let's not look at the telltale signs.
Right.
Let's get to people early. And
stops the...
Yeah. And of course, if you get to people early, like my youngest person that I ever got to was just turned 3 years old, didn't have a lot of language development or anything. So I'm going to tell you what happened.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
So here's this almost 3-year-old on my lap. And I might as well tell you it's my son. Yeah. And we always got along really well, but then all of a sudden, he just did this to me really hard.
He slapped you.
He slapped me really hard. And I found out by reading some child-rearing books at that time, because I was young.
Yeah.
He was only 27, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And so I took his hand. When you take somebody's hand, never take it really hard. Don't dig in or anything. You just take it. And the only reason I ever, except on one exception, told him no is if he was going to hurt somebody else. Right. And one other way too, and I'll tell you in a
Okay.
second.
All right,
he
this is good.
So I took his hand and I said, "No, people are not for hitting. Hit here instead." And I grabbed a pillow and I demonstrated.
Yeah.
And then I held it to him, and he just hit that pillow for about, 15, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and he slapped himself just the same way that he'd slapped me. And you're laughing, Suzy, but the thing is I learned from the books, no, don't laugh, because if you laugh when they hurt themselves, they say, okay, well, it's not right for me to hurt other people, but what I do to myself is just fine.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
If
Yeah,
you know,
I get it.
I'll be funny. No. So I took his hand just the same way as before. I said, "No, you're a person too. Hit here instead." So he did. He hit there instead. He got off my lap, and he learned from that short little lesson. Even though his language development verbally out loud wasn't so great, his comprehension was enough to know because of the
He knew the difference of right and wrong.
He knew the difference between hurting him, doing so.
Yeah.
Throughout his life, I tried not to. It's hard not to say no all the time
Yeah.
to kids.
Yeah.
But no, I tried very hard, and I succeeded mostly of not to say no to him unless he was hurting himself or somebody else.
Okay.
And then, when he got older, I would explain more. I'd say, well, other things are suggestions.
Right.
Like, for example, it's a good suggestion not to take things that don't belong to you.
Yes.
We call that what? What do we call that? Stealing. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Right. But I tried to even put that because I think that's one of the strongest rules we have, because you might end up in jail.
Yes.
But instead of saying no even to that, I would say it's better to learn how to share, how to borrow something, and how to earn it.
Yes.
Instead of taking something that doesn't belong to you.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's a suggestion. So I want you just to take these 2 rules.
Yeah.
And what are they? Can you remember them?
Don't take something that doesn't belong to you.
Well, that would be for the suggestion.
Yeah.
What would be the 2 rules that I think are foundations, that if we could start with everybody in our lives who had these 2 rules, I hinted to you.
Right.
And you
do not hurt yourself.
Yes.
And both psychologically and physically.
Yes.
And so constantly, like smoking is hurting yourself. So by taking that rule of not hurting yourself, there's all sorts of things where you can hurt yourself. Make it a rule not to do that. That helps. And then, of course, it's not to hurt anyone else. If you're not passing around harm, then people are very comfortable with you.
Sure.
Right. And so teaching people how to defend themselves without harming others took a different turn.
That's a big deal.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Because if you do nothing and a bully comes at you, they double down. So you can't do nothing. But what can you do? Well, you can stop them by telling them what they're doing. So I'm going to give you a series of a few things that you can say.
This is good. Yes. I love
I'm
it.
hoping so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can tell them what they're doing. That's the first thing. Instead of, let's say somebody's mocking you or treating you, poorly in some way. Instead of trying to mock them back to show them, to hurt them, is to say, "You're mocking me." Do you notice my voice is kind of saying it like incredulously? Why would you ever want to mock me?
Yeah.
Practice that in the mirror. You're mocking me, or you're ribbing me, or you're putting me down. Whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And then if they do it again, just repeat it, but to say, "You're mocking me again." And then if they keep doing it, or they say something like, "Well, I don't care, it's fun," or something like that, you can say, "Well, I thought you were my friend. We don't have to be friends if you're going to treat me like that," and turn around and walk away. So,
see, that's great. I like that.
Never putting him down.
No.
Never. That's the idea. Offensiveless defense. And there are many other things.
Offensiveless defense.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
that's quite a word.
I know, it tongue-ties a lot of people.
Yes.
But it's in the book I give all kinds of ways, and you came up with a couple of really good ideas that we put in there too.
Well, for example, if a football player is picking on a girl at school, he goes, "Why are you picking on? Do you realize our parents get along just terrific?" Well, this may not be true at all, but it'll blow him away. Oh my God, his parents are my parents. Or in my case, it's like, "Do you realize my father's the school doctor? He could keep you off the team." And it's like, just different things in life, which could be true or partially true or something like that.
Yes.
Or as my friends and I, root for you on Friday nights at the games. Why are you picking on me when we're actually out there trying to root for you? So.
Yes. So you're calling their attention to it.
Yeah, so
Take
because if
it
you
off
just walk
the other.
away, then they know they were winning, and if you just try to confront them, then they're up for the. But if you're like, this doesn't make any sense for you to be picking on me, it just changes their point of view. They're just going to move on to do something,
That's true.
probably stop. So I never heard of offensive less defense before.
No,
but then
this is great though.
But I constantly came up with just different ways that would question, like, why am I being a jerk? It's like,
Well, I've got an idea.
Well, it makes them think about it, doesn't it?
If you at home are watching this and you have a piece of paper nearby, write down a blank, and in that blank, put the name of somebody who you remember bullied you ever.
Okay.
And then a comma, and then another blank, and put down the name of the person who they bullied. You might say I.
Yeah.
Or you might say my sister, or somebody that you're protecting.
Yes.
That can't protect themselves very well. And then you can say, write down, is not in the mood for, those words, is not in the mood for, and then another blank, and then say what they're doing. And study that, practice that, get ready to say sometimes, like it might be Fred, is the bully.
Okay.
My sister is not in the mood for ribbing. I had somebody do that, and the person just went like that. Oh, okay.
Well, sure. I mean, this is great when you think about it, because if you call their attention to it, nobody expects that.
Exactly. And you don't have to know somebody really, really well in order to create a difference.
No.
I mean, I had an Uber driver, and he was driving me to about a 20-minute ride, and so I asked him what his life was like, and he mentioned that his ex-wife said that their son didn't want to see him anymore.
Huh?
Yeah,
oh, that had to be horrible.
It really hurt him.
Yes.
And I inquired a little more, and it was because the Uber driver was teasing his son. He thought it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun for him, but it wasn't for the boy.
Yes.
And so I explained to him, people who are sensitive and young children,
right,
it's not a good way to communicate with them. So I had to give him 2 or 3 other ways to communicate to his son so that this wouldn't happen anymore. And I hope he took my suggestions. He acted like he was going to, and I hope so.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So I'm hoping that people might reach out if they are having trouble in, influencing their circle of people to take those 2 rules, that they might reach out, and don't worry, we'll put where they might reach out, that maybe we could work together, maybe we'd be a good fit so that we could help them.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Drina, you're from Buffalo, New York.
It's very cold there.
Yes. Aren't you glad we're in Las Vegas? I was from Pennsylvania, St. Mary's, Pennsylvania. That's about 2.5 hours from where you are, yes.
Right.
I look at that and I say, oh, thank God we're in Las Vegas. And then you were from Long Island.
Yeah.
So same thing with you, Andy.
Yeah.
But when you were back east, you were a teacher back then, weren't you?
I was a first grade teacher and then a third grade teacher, but not for very long. I really have the utmost respect for teachers because, well, in my day, they didn't have teacher aides. They just had 30 students, and I had never taken a course. They needed teachers so badly back then that I didn't have any education courses. So I quickly went back to school, studied, finally went back where I was hired as a school psychologist, and I worked with a lot of teachers. And
So tell me your journey. You went from Buffalo, New York to California, is that correct?
I made some stops. I went to Rochester, Webster, where I was for 4 years a school psychologist.
Okay.
And then I went to California.
Okay.
And I got my doctorate first, sold my house, and then, I was even homeless for a short period of time, and I had my dissertation stolen from my car,
goodness.
along with they got a blouse, but they got my dissertation plans, so I had to start all over again, and I went.
So you've led quite a life, haven't you?
Well, yeah, when you get to be old, you have a lot
you're
of
not that
experiences.
old.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Well, I'll be 82 pretty soon.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, because you sure don't act like it, like you're 82.
Thank you.
And Andy, you two got together. You're helping her with the book, right?
Right.
Promoting the book. And
once again, I read what she has written, and then I tell stories of my life, like this is how it relates to. Boy, I sure wish I knew this information. Anyway, she's then able to wind some of the stuff that I share with her into her books.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, how many books have you wrote?
Well, I just found out today that I'm one page in a book called Abundance. It's the Art of Connection, Abundance, and it's an internationally published book. And today it was launched, and on the 20th, I think there'll be a book reduction.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I'm going to, and I hope other people might get that book, and you just every day read about abundance.
Yes.
For 365 days, and so I'm looking forward to that. I'm also launching a book next year called, it's mostly for teachers, but it's for parents too. The working title is Boredom and Frustration, Shutdown in Learning. Because can you remember back then, and if the kids already knew, if you already knew what the teacher was thinking, you'd be bored. If you didn't know, you'd be frustrated.
Sure.
So in that book, I'm putting all kinds of ways to keep boredom and frustration out, because there's a natural body discharge of boredom and frustration that most people are shut down in. They said, like talking. Mm-hmm. You can't be bored and talk and laugh at the same time.
No.
And so it's how to break up the classroom to get them talking to each other, and then back to get the learning.
Sure.
And it's going to be a whole way that people can harness a better way, which means being creative instead, being content, being more loving, being more cooperative too, because if you don't have these negative emotions in you, you're not going to have any ideation of dying by suicide and assaulting other people that might lead to homicide.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, they did a study, and I'm going to test you.
You're going to, oh no.
I'm going to test you. They had a study.
Nobody told me there was a test today.
There was a study done while I was doing my dissertation, and I read about it. They asked the oldest people that they could find at the time.
Okay.
Many even older than I am at this day, and asking them, if you could go back to any age, what age would you choose to go back to? What would you say?
I would take the age I am now.
Okay. Are you going to tell us? Since I... You don't have to.
I'm happier than I've ever been in my life.
That's right. And that's what they chose.
Yeah.
I would have thought they would have wanted to go back to 18 or their teen years or their 20 years or their decade of their 30s. No, they wanted to go back to the decade where they were in their 50s.
In their 50s?
In their 50s.
Okay.
But not everybody. I mean, the average... Most of them said that, the decade of their 50s. So I would tell people, if they were sent to me and younger, I'd say, hang in there. The best is yet to come.
That's true. Wow. It's amazing. Well, Andy, since we've got you here, we need to get a little bit of your background too. Dr. Drina, don't you agree? So what have you done in Vegas? And I think you worked with a famous author too, didn't you?
Oh, sure, Tony Robbins.
Yes.
That was when we both lived in San Diego at the time.
Okay.
And he had started this firewalk seminar. And the one thing I knew in life is firewalking was something I did not want have any interest in whatsoever. So I wanted to go to see the guy. He had a free seminar to convince people to take his seminar. I wasn't going there. I wanted to see how we could convince other people to do that seminar. And as it turned out, I ended up doing the seminar. I became a big fan. I enrolled a lot of people in it, and I actually got to tour the world with him. And he really is. There's stuff like, for example, that I use all the time that I learned from Tony. And one of the things is the empowering question. And so, like, if you're stuck in traffic or you're going to be late for this or something really tragic happens in your life, a lot of people will just go to how unfair it is or something like that. That's not resourceful.
No.
I just instantly go into what to do next. What's the best thing to do next is my particular driving force.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I had an example of a person who in the emergency room, and his family is there, and he was in a car accident, and he looks okay, but he's hooked up a little bit, and we're all there, and we're saying, Bill, they're saying, Bill, talk. I'm expecting Bill to talk to us, but I'm saying positive things to him, like, hey, you're lucky you're in a good hospital, you got a good doctor, some positive, uplifting things. Well, the doctor comes in after 4 hours of that and tells us Bill is dead. And the room becomes totally unresourced. I mean, it's just, and you could easily go to why Bill was one of your best friends, all the great things about Bill.
Wow.
And I kept saying to myself, what's the best thing to do? And what I realized, because there was nobody else resourceful in the room, that the thing to do was to donate Bill's organs. And because that's what he was the most giving, charitable guy I knew.
Right.
And they ended up using 80 parts of Bill because he was in perfect health. He was like a 40-year-old jogger and whatever. And so it's
Sounds
one of those
like
things.
a novel, doesn't it?
Yes.
80 parts of Bill.
I mean, they use his eyes, ligaments. But I'm just saying, one of the great things, though, is that a lot of people would have thought, oh, I wish we had donated Bill's organs 2 or 3 days later.
Sure.
But I actually just got deeply, intensely into what's the best thing to do next.
Sure.
And that happened. So that's something from Tony Robbins where I learned the resourceful question, the impactful question, whatever you want to call it. But so I've learned just many things from Tony over the years as to his big thing also is about rapport. And most of the time we're with people who are in rapport, and but when you're not, what do we have in common? Because if you can get something in common, at least maybe you have the basis of building something.
That's what I try to do. I always try to find a common denominator that we would have. Yes, that's amazing. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that we should answer before the time is up?
If people want to get a hold of your book.
Amazon is selling it, so is some other places too.
Okay.
And again, it's End Suicide and Homicide, and it's the second edition, because I have a first edition there, and then I added all these charts and these ways for you to get back.
So get the second edition.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Make sure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And if people want to get a hold of you and possibly have a conference, or do you take patients? That's my next question.
I usually do phone things or Zoom things and things like that, unless they live,
Okay, and
nearby.
what is your phone number?
Well, I could give you my phone number or Andy's phone number, but if you went to Free Gift from Drina, DRINA.com, and you could probably even sign up for a half-hour free consultation.
That's even better. I like that. And what about you, Andy, if people want to get a hold of you?
Well, it's fine. I'm basically, for a lot of people around, when people come to Vegas, they call me like, what's the best show to go? I'm kind of like knowledgeable of that. I actually represent a hypnotist, Justin Trance, and a couple of magicians, Jason Powers and John T. Sheets, and some comedians, Angie Crum. Anyway.
Well, good. I want to go see all those people. So I guess that's who I got to call Andy, don't I?
And so basically what I do, I go to a lot of different marketing groups. That's how you met me. And my strength is that I go and pay attention at these different groups, and I'll introduce somebody from this group who would never have met this person from this other group because they have something in common.
That's what you did with us.
Yeah,
it was wonderful. I'm glad too. I'm so glad we had you both on this show, and I hope to have you back again. I really do. But I learned a lot from you today. I really did.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, a positive way to be able to handle things. And, especially like with the bullies and all that. So, if you guys like our show, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And, this really needs to be talked about more, because we need to save people. We really do, don't we?
Absolutely.
Yep. And I'm so glad I had you both on the show today.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you.
So grab your headphones, let the journey play Suzy's Las Vegas podcast. Come join the sway.